All right. Well, again, sorry for the delay from last week and everyone's understanding for what turned into a very, very long day last week. Um, but hey, it's been a long 10 years this March, and
It's April.
shush you. I'm not ready for the next decade. Um, yeah, I don't know. Time is an illusion. Structure is a construct, kind of by definition. Anyway, when we last left our heroes, stuff had happened. There were there were there was some gym stuff and a little bit of future flashbacky type thing. Future flashback, flash forward revelations on the part of Mette as she makes a realization about Sergeant Surge and his role in her what she thinks of as her past and all that kind of thing. So that was one of those interesting little developments for that. Now I'm going to, whoops, get my screens up here. Um, there we go. Nope, not quite. Not quite there yet. Everything opening slowly. I'm going to try something somewhat related to that if you guys will allow me a little bit of uh, I, I like I will say that, Mike, I like how you have sort of organized the influence on your
I,
character sheet. That's
if I
clever.
don't, I will forget about it.
No, that's really clever. I like how you did that. That is a really nice way of organizing it. So for those of you who want to steal Mike's trick, take a look at his character sheet on the first tab under the influence over section part. He subdivided it rather in a rather clever fashion. I think that's pretty great.
I did the exact same thing with Concord.
I never noticed, which makes me a terrible person probably.
No, you
Nice.
just forgot about it because you brought this up last time too.
Oh, did I? Wow, my brain is bad. I don't remember that on Concord at all. Where do they store your little goals? Your little
Oh, my drives?
yeah. Is that just in
Ah,
bio and info
fun
or?
story. I didn't have a space to put them, so they're in the passive moves.
Oh, look at that. That's weird. I kind of thought there would be a place for the drives. Huh.
I thought there would be too.
Seems weird. Mikey,
Yeah.
you're a beacon. That seems very strange. All right. Well, doesn't
I
matter.
thought I vaguely remember there being like a space like under influence or above it that I wanted to say was on Radiance's sheet.
Yeah,
Like,
there
like,
was.
like, but I don't have it.
It must be that whoever did the custom thing, the custom sheet, dropped it for some reason.
Or they broke it and they haven't noticed
I
yet.
haven't noticed it yet. All right. So I'm going to do a little bit of a, I don't know. One of the things that I think happens a lot in these kinds of sort of superhero and superhero academy type things is you get a, sort of some intro, call it the first spotlight episodes, in the first couple of issues where everybody's doing stuff, but we kind of learn a little bit more about each person. So rather than doing sessions where we have everybody do a love letter, um, I'm doing like one love letter a session for each, like, and work my way through everybody. Does that make sense? And let that love letter be a bit of a focus for that character. Which isn't to say we're not going to spend time on everybody, but that but since we got a little bit of a taste of that with Mette, I'm going to kind of open up with, and just full transparency, so people aren't like, my God, you're just really leaning into this person. Just to get a general idea of, you know, that was sort of the teaser thing, and now we're going to get a little bit more of that, stuff. Looking at any of that kind of stuff. Okay, so with that, I am going to take. We'll probably need to get this into the log somehow, but I think Dave can probably copy paste it from here. So let me grab Mette's thing and just toss it into chat into the chat. We're rewatching, and everybody has their own little opinions about this, but Kate's been rewatching all the Doctor Who stuff, and she's up to Matt Smith with Clara, who, everybody's opinion is going to vary. Happens to be mine and Kate's favorite. I mean, we have very strong positive opinions about a lot of people, but at least for myself, one of my favorite, probably my favorite companion. A lot of people feel differently, and that's fine. They're all wrong, but and so we're kind of saying it. But one of the things that I had kind of been aware of and sort of forgotten and realizing is, boy, they are really inside each other's personal space, like hard all the time, like really, really, like you've got something in your eye. Just let me get in there and get that sand out of your eye, like super close in each other's personal space. I'm reminded of it because of Dave's little leaning into that person joke there. Okay, so that broke up in a really funny way. Man, why did it do that? That was really weird. Yeah, well, you're just gonna have to get over the Clara thing. All right, dear Mette, Can I change this recording thing a little bit? Maybe
Why did I knew you were gonna pick on me first?
Yep. Well, because we kind of got a taste of your future vision. We're kind of leaning into it again. So, dear Mette, it's been several weeks since the school session started at Phoenix Academy. From your bed, you glance at one of the 6 calendars on the wall, then all of your clocks. But you can't shake the feeling that you're late for something. What? You can't tell. And you can't tell if you're minutes or days or weeks late. But whatever you wanted to do, you have a feeling that you should have started working on it sooner. Roll superior. On a hit, you remember a critical moment about to come to pass. You can enter any scene that you are not already in and state one thing you are trying to avert or achieve and take +1 for blah, blah, blah. And on a 10 to plus, choose one. You can choose some stuff. On a miss, other things happen.
Okay. Superior.
Superior. Oops, I flipped away at just the wrong moment. Ooh, a 9. Okay. Nobody's really with you at this
point. Well, because I have a +3, so.
Yeah, I didn't really look at the stats too close to figure out what was it. So on a hit, you remember a critical moment about to come to pass. You can enter any scene that you are not already in and state one thing that you are trying to avert or achieve. Take +1 forward when acting on that objective. We're not going to worry about the 10 plus things because it doesn't really apply. And on a miss, we don't have to worry about that stuff about you taking conditions and all that kind of good stuff. So we will pause there because you're looking up and we get a shot of, if you don't mind me having thrown in that little bit of narrative thing here, but the idea of you having I just love the idea of you having multiple clocks and multiple calendars, possibly in different time zones, certainly displaying different information, weather, barometer, lunar calendars. Yeah, just all kinds of different stuff, a Chinese calendar. As like constant cross references of where or when you are, and just having you kind of like squint and think, and that really easily recognizable face that people have of like, I'm slowly waking up and it seems like I should be remember something, and then the eyes go wide and you suddenly sit bolt upright in your dorm bed with a gasp, and you know, as your eyes have been tracking from clocks to calendars and that sort of thing. And we're going to take a round robin here and kind of figure out where everybody else is at during this. And you have slept in a bit, so we're going to give everybody some time to set various scenes, what's going on with them.
Is this a school day?
This is a school day.
Okay.
Well, I leave that actually somewhat. I take that back. I leave that up to the group, although I will ask at least one leading question that may put it on a school day, although it doesn't necessarily have to. And we'll start with that leading question right off the bat. Sync.
Oh my.
You have a hero fixation.
A little.
A person that you're a bit
Power Shronic.
So this was yeah, right. Okay. So this is an actual hero, not one of the students in the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. The headmaster used him as leverage to get me to show up to class.
Right. And today's the day when they are coming to the island, for the Phoenix Academy Island, for what? Are they giving a speech? Is it a Saturday and they're giving a show, like a display out on the fields and the bleachers? They're guest teaching one of the classes. DJ for the day over the school PA system.
What the hell was that?
Literally whatever.
I'm gonna say that he is lecturing for a class.
Okay, so it is a school day. We've established that now.
That Roddy it does not have, and so now Roddy is trying to figure out ways to get into that class.
Okay, that's excellent. Is where should you be during that period?
Oh, let's see. What sounds like a class that you usually wouldn't skip?
Math.
Not necessarily
science.
that you wouldn't skip.
Mr.
but
Brooks' math class.
Math class.
Mr.
What's
Brooks'
that?
math class, especially.
No. See, Mr. Brick's math class, I would want to get out.
Oh, that you wouldn't want to skip. I don't know. Can you?
Yeah.
Can anybody
I was
answer
going to
that?
say gym class only because the consequences are so much greater of skipping it.
I will.
Yeah.
I will parenthetically note that you've been having a little. I'm not going to say a lot, but you've been having a little bit of fun in gym. Because I'm going to say because for whatever reason, Surge keeps pairing you up against Joe, and he's kind of predictable in his moves and stuff. So you've been kind of enjoying yourself in there.
Coasting?
Because yeah, he hasn't looked great.
Oh no. I was gonna say it's what's the other character that my guy used to be friends with?
Problem Child.
Problem child.
Yeah.
We got to get that. I got to get that board. I got to get that spreadsheet up.
Yep. I was trying to find it really quick. Oh yeah, Paul. Yeah, it's
Paul.
like I finally got Surge to collapse and be like, fine, you can change gym partners. Joe, oh come on, you from one guy who can punch into a wall to another guy who can punch.
Yeah. That is but for whatever reason, either because you're ready, kind of already in that mindset, or just whatever, you read him really well, and where in the heck is the thing for the calm room?
I'll put it in the
Thank you.
Discord.
No, that's the name of in the Discord. All right. Homeroom. There we go. Thank you. I just got to get the reference names and everything up there. Homeroom and advisement seating chart. Lovely. All right. I'll put it in here just for that kicks and giggles. Okay, so we should probably get something roughly equating to. So I don't know. I mean, I think I'm going to throw this back at you a little bit. Like, what class is it that you really wouldn't want to skip? That you kind of need to skip for this, either because of the dire consequences, which seem less of a concern for you, but because you maybe honestly like the class or
No,
or
I
whatever.
think it is. I think it is gym class, and it's not because of Joe, although Joe's great.
Well, Joe's great. Yeah, he's not. I'm gonna say maybe handling his frustration with not being able to lay a finger on you. He's maybe not handling that with total aplomb.
No, what I think it is that Sergeant Surge, ever since he's lost influence over me, has actually been like much chiller with him.
Or whatever he says just goes right, rolls right off you, even when he tries to take a shot, verbally speaking.
Well, no, I feel like it might be like he is actually taking it easier on him, which will make it all the better when they skip class now, and I'll ruin that.
I will, yes, absolutely. And it may be that it's just your perception that, but the fact that he doesn't have influence over you, I certainly envision times where everybody is coming out of gym looking kind of dejected and doubting themselves or worn out and just kind of like frustrated. And you're just coming out like kind of humming under your breath because it just didn't bother you. Well, it was fine. It wasn't great. It was fine. Whatever. Because it's just not, there's been days like that where everybody seems to think it was the worst day in gym ever, and you're like, I guess. Whatever. All right, so Jim. So are you just going to ditch, or are you going to try to talk him into explain this thing and let him go, or try to explain it and then if he says no, ditch anyway? What's your move there?
You know what? We're gonna try and see if we can convince him into it, because I got a good feeling about this, and I do have that +1 forward against him.
You do have a +1 forward against him. All right,
It'll just be like coming up to him beforehand, just be like,
yeah, talk to me what your approach on this thing is.
Hey, Sarge, listen. Applied heroics down the way. They need a teaching assistant for the day or for one period. Listen, I already talked to the teacher. They're fine with it. If you could just give me the okay, we're running laps. You know me, I can run laps all day. Come on, let me do this one.
I think. Okay. What's the guy's name? Protronic? Sorry. I gotta write this. Powertronic. So I would like there to be a dice roll here. And there's two ways I can see. Go ahead. You do. You go. You talk.
I could totally be provoking him.
So there's two ways I can see it going. Is it totally just a social thing, which makes it kind of a provoke? You're kind of just leveling all the arguments. You're throwing all the logic at him. I don't need to worry about this. I'm actually still going to be learning. I'm going to be doing a I'm going to be doing applied heroics, all this other kind of stuff, and you go that way. Alternately, unbeknownst to the hero, there's a timing issue here, and there's some stuff you may not otherwise be aware of that's got him maybe out of sorts, and it's really more sensing that and realizing like when you want to, like you really need to, like you're picking up some increased tension over the week. So you mentioned it the day before, or you spend the time the day before, like really shining the apple, so to speak, in your performance, so that you can come into him a little bit before class and kind of leverage, you know, in which case I say it's a freak roll because you're actually overcoming this obstacle and you're reading, you're sort of reading the room. So overcoming there's some obstacles that you're not actually aware of, but you're sort of sensing there's some tension there that you want to deal with, or you just kind of try to out logic him and just sort of browbeat him with just the whatever of it by doing the provoke.
Oh no, I'm browbeating.
Okay, all right, that's fair. That is cool. We will go with that. And where's my? So we're gonna attack him with logic by doing the provoke. You don't have influence over him, but you do have the +1 forward.
Yep. So I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, I'm side eyeing that susceptible to your words thing, but I'll acknowledge that since you have the +1 forward, at least for this shot, he's susceptible to your argument. So go ahead and hit me. What do we got here?
I think I got it.
Woo! Oh my God. All right. So on a 10 plus, they rise to the bait and do what you want.
So is this like a cutaway from him, like Roddy asking him all these things, and then a shot out, him kind of give him the level look, and then a shot outside of Roddy like running out the door, doing like a quick jump, and then skipping down the hallway?
You can absolutely do that. Surge is definitely not happy about this, but he's kind of just man, I want to shift your label so hard right now, but you with that 12 it seems kind of unfair.
I was about to say, if he had influence over me, he could try it anyway, but he doesn't.
But he doesn't. Yeah, which means he's not gonna he's not even gonna bother. He goes, yeah, you know what, kid? Sure. You want to go and spend some time with you know,
Powertronic.
shining,
Tired.
kissing up to one of the pros. Yeah, go right ahead. I'm sure it's going to be work study credit or something down the road, or maybe you'll get an internship this summer. Wouldn't that be great? Go on ahead. Don't be late tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you get the yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Alex, or in this case, actually, Agent 37. You've got Aegis has sort of given you I don't want to call it low grade. They've given you a orthogonal assignment with relation to Powertronic being on campus today. Okay. It's related to it. You're not like running security for Powertronic because that would be a little bit crazy. But there's something on with that. Like we've noticed something odd with we think he's being surveilled. We want you to keep an eye out for that. There's a lot of internet chatter. There's been a lot of noise about stuff going on about this appearance and his, history with Hellbinder. I don't know what. I'm throwing out random crap to talk about, just sort of illustrate the general direction in which way. So they want you either observing like either directly with your eyeballs or virtually, this it's you're not necessarily looking at Powertronic, but around the campus for this thing that they've told you to keep an eye out for. Um, Keeping in mind, you can always say, "Give me a second." What is that? Like, what's the thing that you've been told to that is your assignment essentially to kind of keep an eye out for, or to be ready for, or whatever?
I want to say that he's been receiving a series of weird, vaguely fanish, vaguely threatening messages, and we're doing this just in case.
So it's potential weird stalkery kind of thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Uh, Mike, what's Powertronic's deal? Like give me is he an SB of some particular kind of hero that we can easily socket into, or what is his?
Oh yeah, he's totally like an Iron Man style character.
Okay.
Like he might have like, given the name, I don't know, electricity based stuff.
Right. So
As I say, he's one step away from, or he was like one step away from being named Tesla Coil, most likely.
interesting. Cool. Probably some. Yeah.
Poor thing.
Yeah, Musk outbid him for the name branding. So yeah, maybe more electricity. It looks like a power armor suit, but it's a little bit less of the like armor and more just the power. Emphasis on the word power. Funny story about that. One time we were running a Champions game back in the day, and somebody had made up a power armor suit guy, like that could shift all of his points back and forth between various abilities and that sort of thing. And he kept showing me pictures of what the guy looked like. He'd gotten together, which was a bit of a feat back in the day. It was late 90s, and he'd pulled together a whole bunch of different pictures of like sort of the inspirational suit. So I kept seeing all these pictures of power armor. And the first fight that we got into, I took like the bruiser, like brawler, hand to hand bad guy, and just charged him and just hit him really, really hard, like as hard as I just unloaded everything to kind of like set the stage, and I killed him.
Uh-oh.
With one shot, I killed him. Well, that isn't quite true. I put him in a coma for 6 months. Like, according to the rules of the game, I put him in a coma for 6 months. Because I hadn't actually looked at his character sheet stat-wise and stuff, and he'd basically done it all up as like a glass cannon. He didn't have like any armor, like at all. He was basically like a dude in street clothes who just had a whole bunch of ability to hit stuff. And I unloaded on him like he was wearing like really, really heavy armor, and yeah, put him in a hospital for 6 months. He rolled up another character. It was great. Anyway, so Powertronic. That kind of stuff, and he's kind of okay. So with Agent 76, I'm going to say, when you unleash your powers to overcome an obstacle, reshape your environment, or extend your senses. So the thing in the back of your mind, Alex, has been the fact that, or in Alex's mind, as they have been sort of getting samples of this fan mail and stuff like that, one of the more recent messages has been, people don't just, they're raging. It's one of those, like, it's the email equivalent of one of those ragey leave Britney alone kind of YouTube messages, because once again, Congress or Aegis or some body of authority, governmentally speaking, is dismissing, to this person's mind, the contribution that Powertronic had on a recent exchange, a recent like rescue thing. It was it was handled by the authorities. There was some presence for the Halcyon Heroes League, and really almost mentioned Powertronic parenthetically after the main HHL sort of group leader that was on site, that kind of thing, and they just weren't giving you credit. And the line that you kind of gets your attention is, I can make sure that people will see how amazing you are when something happens that only you can deal with. And that's the thing that had, it certainly, you weren't the only one that noticed it, but the Aegis handlers and analysts and that sort of thing had kind of picked up on that and said, that sounds like they're going to do something stupid, and that you kind of track that. So you're on the lookout for stuff. What does that look like? Are you roaming the school? Are you lurking around outside of where he's going to be doing his applied heroics thing? Are you in some dim bunker, the dim bunker of your dorm room with like 6 different water-cooled CPUs racked up underneath your bunk? Or
I can get to that stuff remotely. Alex is probably going to show up at the place and just kind of do the creepy stalker thing themselves. But we'll be online and keeping an eye on surveillance cameras, keeping an eye on any information feeds that we got access to, any of that kind of great stuff.
Sort of blueprint / schematics of the overall school, or a satellite picture that's got a schematic laid over it, and different sort of pulsing hotspots, that kind of thing, like Wi-Fi hotspots, power surges. That just little. There's different. We can kind of see you sort of toggling through a couple of different overlays for the school. This one's showing Wi-Fi coverage. This one's showing this. This one's showing distribution of electrical, whatever, things like that. Let's see if you spot what's going on, and I will have you unleash your powers to extend your senses.
All right. Well, I'm acting under orders and relying on training, so I'm going to give Aegis influence and use soldier instead of the other label.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
And that's good because that roll would have been a 6.
That's good stuff. I like it. All right, so unleash your powers. We know kind of how this basically rolls down, but it's a matter of it's either going to be unstable or temporary, or
oh no, I'm marking angry. Like, this is bullshit.
Somebody is definitely trying something, and either you're annoyed that you are. So who are you angered towards? Are you angered towards whatever moron is doing this, or the fact that you're dispatched on this, or where's the anger? If not where it's directed, where's it?
Just imagine me waving my hand in a vague direction, going wherever. It's like, why do people do stupid things? Why this guy?
Why are people dumb? Why are people?
Why did I have to be awake for this? God damn it.
Okay, so it looks like, first of all, there's a couple of low-level. Okay, it doesn't seem to be, the first thing you were looking for was external access, like somebody coming in externally and accessing, something through the school network, and that doesn't seem to be happening. And honestly, the school network is pretty tight. If you weren't sort of already inside of it, it would be a real pain in the butt. And it's still kind of, because there's a lot of internal bulkheads, I guess, so to speak, electronically speaking. There is not. There does not seem to be anybody who's like sort of using the internet in any way, shape, or form to access unauthorized access into the school stuff. There's a lot higher radio frequency signal than you've come to expect on a given school day, and that may be Powertronic. Certainly, some of it is Powertronic, but some of it isn't. And you are definitely seeing some behavior in some of the school's systems that indicate odd behavior. Okay. Specifically about what do I want to trying to cast my mind back to this thing. Can't remember what I'm thinking of here. Specifically, there's a science lab on the 3rd floor of the building that seems to be drawing a lot of power right now that is checking the class schedule, not actually running anything. Like there's no classes going on, and you can't help but notice. You can't help but notice that it doesn't seem to be a direct attack on anybody that's taking part in this applied heroics because it's not actually near this part of the building, and it's noisy, right? It's the kind of thing. I say noisy in an electromagnetic kind of way. It's noisy in the sense that like before it gets to the point where it's like really messing anything up a whole bunch, it's likely going to be detected. Now you've been watching for it, so you're picking it up quite early. But you take somebody like Powertronic or somebody else, this is going to be something that's going to. It's one of those things that's pitched so only dogs can hear, and Powertronic is a dog with good hearing. So there's definitely something going on there that is a problem. Okay. What do? Do you call somebody? Do you take off on your own? What do you go investigate? What do you do?
This feels like a trap. So we got a school full of people with cell phones. We got cell phone cameras. They can be my eyes and ears up there. So I'm going to get a fly's eyes view of what's going on that level.
Yes. And we're just going to let your unleash your powers ride on this as you sort of commandeer people's electronic devices and that kind of stuff.
Oh, you're gonna piss Tiffany off.
Yeah, actually,
Bonus.
I'm offering you. I'm going to offer you a little bit of a not a bargain exactly, but I'm going to make an offer here. If you are particularly callous about this, you can get rid of angry by virtue of having like, for all intents and purposes, bricked everybody's phone in the area. Like basically single purposing it back to what you need it to be able to do, and like some of the other electronic cameras, webcams that are mounted on laptops that are maybe open in classrooms and that sort of thing. You're going to get them, but because of the like really strong arm technique that you're using, I don't have time for nicety. I don't have time for subtlety. I need the thing. For all intents and purposes, those things aren't going to be functional electronic devices after this point in time.
I actually need to be subtle right now, so I'm going to avoid that if possible.
Okay, that's fine. I was giving you the option of shucking angry by breaking stuff.
I like angry. Angry is my friend.
I'm just saying. I'm just giving you that option. So anyway, all right. So you need the subtle. Kind of get it up there. What I mentioned the webcams. That is actually one of the things that you a couple of them that you get in the science lab that you're able to kind of commandeer and get a sense of what's going on in there. The webcams are on there. There doesn't seem to be any activity like outside the room. The room itself is empty. There are a number of somebody was doing some sort of electronic, electromagnet experiments up here. But it's a super science class, so they're fiddling with it and they're doing weird, this little extra stuff strapped to it, generating various signals, that kind of stuff. But the general idea is there's a lot of magnets with copper wire and then like various kinds of electrical feeds that they're running into it. Nothing as light as a 9-volt battery. Weird amplifiers, that kind of stuff. but you're almost sure that this is not the kind of stuff that one leaves plugged in and running, and this stuff seems to have been reconnected or just left connected. And on at least one of the devices, given the angle that you're at, you can zoom in a little bit with the thing, but it's not great. At least one, well, I take that back. At least 3 of them have suspiciously similar small circuit boards that have been soldered onto the sides of these devices to some purpose. And I say suspiciously similar because they don't seem to, as from what you could tell, I mean, you're not one of the hyper geniuses that be doing this stuff. They don't seem to have anything to do with the rest of the thing, and they're looped in like they have. It's like there's the electromagnet, this board, and you recognize it as like a Raspberry Pi Zero board. Okay.
Okay. There's a circuit board doing bad things.
Yeah, and there's something else like wired off of that this whole thing is kind of looping off of. And yeah, some people.
Okay, I'm a simple hacker. When I see something bad, I think, can I pull the plug?
Yeah.
Is there a managed breaker system in this building that I have access to, or do I actually have to physically yank a cable out somewhere?
You probably there's probably an emergency system that would kill the power in the building. There's absolutely I will even dial that back a bit. There's absolutely some systems that would kill the power in the building. I
don't want to kill the whole building now.
Yeah. There's probably breakers for that room, but for whatever reason they're not flipping at this point. You could maybe power surge the room. It is noisy. It's almost seems to be intentionally noisy. In terms of the stuff that's happening in there.
Trying to draw attention to it.
Sure.
I basically want to stop this thing from going off before bad things really happen. If that means just going up there and yanking wires, then I will head up there right now and do that.
You can see in the camera that there's like this is the kind of room where they give you they just put a sub breaker box. Sub box? No, whatever you call it. You know what I mean? There's like a breaker box just for this room, so that they've got like a breaker for each lab station. Just for that room, like it's off of the main breaker off of the main circuit for the whole building, so that it can, like, if needs be, if some idiot decides to put a fork in an outlet at one of the labs just to see what'll happen, it'll pop that breaker without like shutting off the whole floor. Because science class is where idiocy happens, and hopefully isn't where idiots come to die. So
that's my scenario. Yeah, so I'll go do that.
Okay. All right. So we've got Alex running toward 3rd floor, grumbling under their breath, Yosemite Sam style, about, whatever idiocy these guys have got going on. This is, I mean, at least part of this is electromagnetic, potentially some sort of EMP pulse stuff. How hardened is your stuff? Just out of curiosity. I mean, is that a concern for you at all? Like, back of your mind, like, or is that not something you're I mean, you're.
I would say for purposes of the scene that it's a risk. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly an obvious thing to harden your limbs against, and they're going to be somewhat resistant to that, but certainly a risk. Okay. So Alex is running through the halls. Sync is like Alex is taking
through the halls.
Yeah, Alex is running through the halls, and like as they are headed down the hall and kind of like taking off, we see Sync come like around into the hall from the opposite end, and just at a light jog, just kind of jogging to a stop in the door, stands in front of the door, take a deep breath, smile, and swings the door open and strides in, because this is going to be the best day ever. Joe. Kiln, No spoilers, but I'm going to be asking you what's going on with you, and you know what the scene is there. But we're getting with Joe, so I'm just prepping you for that. Joe, you're in gym, and you're the odd man out because Sync didn't show up to class. So,
And I'm partly relieved because I've been getting really frustrated about Sync. But on the other hand, if that means I'm kind of standing on the side while everyone else is doing something, that's kind of frustrating too.
That is not how. That is definitely not how Surge works as a general rule. Who do you end up in a 3-person pairing with for gym class? I direct you to the homeroom advisement seating chart.
I am.
Let me put this another way. Who else besides Daystarson are you paired up with?
So Evan and Roy.
Oh my God. Captain smiles all the time, and oh God, both big smilers. And then there's you. God, that's just delicious because you've got Pretty Boy that Mette like goo goo eyes over, and then you've got Roy who seems to be stalking her. Super comfortable. Nice pick. Well done. Looking at your sheet here real quick. What is the superhero challenge of the day in gym class today? Anybody have any suggestions? Something competitive. Something. This isn't like you guys are in teams. This is like small group. You know,
running mazes.
Competing within the small group.
Well, yeah, exactly. So like you're coming up to the starting line for wind sprints, kind of a thing, and you're just doing it in pairs, kind of a deal. But obviously not wind sprints. Like, so what?
Running mazes.
Running. Yeah, but like, so what's the superhero goal here? Like, you've got to get through the obstacles to get to the, you know, rescue the civilian kind of thing.
Bus full of nuns.
Bus full. Rescue the bus full of nuns. Reach the bus full of nuns. Okie dokie. It's so they don't generally speaking. I think this is because Surge just thinks it's funny. They don't generally speaking use a lot of like they use a little bit of holographic stuff, but it's kind of like CGI and otherwise practical effects movies. Like they do it to dress up stuff that is still clearly not the real thing. So they don't try to make it like a danger room. Okay. So what they have set up is a bridge, a damaged bridge. Okay. And at the end of the section of bridge that we care about is a bus full of nuns about halfway over the bridge. Okay. And it's big. It's a big cardboard thing. It's a big cardboard thing, which is a problem because it's light and crushable. And so are all the cars. So they've got some holographic projectors that sort of make it a little bit nicer. Like it makes the cardboard cars look a little bit nicer, but they're still clearly cardboard, you know, reinforced triple ply cardboard where the windows that have been painted on have people inside.
And by the way, Surge doesn't like it when you break the cardboard.
Yeah, because like this is supposed to be reusable, people. We're on a budget here, kind of stuff. And whether or not he actually gives two craps about it doesn't matter. He can dock you points when you damage the cars, right?
And the civvies don't like it either.
Yeah. And what you have spotted in some of the initial challenges from a couple people is that he's not just the bus full of nuns is the ostensible objective, but he's also randomly going, like you're halfway down, like negotiating through the snarl of cars and traffic in the way, and suddenly he'll be like, you'll hear him over the intercom for the gym going, uh, Hellblade, the Fiat's leaking fuel. They don't realize it. What do you do? And they have to deal with that while the other person hasn't had anything called out to them yet. So that kind of stuff is happening where he complicates things. Okay. So, did we ever really say what Roy's thing is? Like what he does? Or is he just overly muscled, flannel, suspenders, glasses?
He's a scion.
He's a
That
scion.
helps.
So he's got a
He's a big.
he's the child of a villain.
He disappears for long stretches of time. He intervenes in a fight. He intervenes in fights sometimes in a rapid, brutal fashion. So
Yeah.
He's kind of boxy, but they
He's
keep
brute.
on making trendy commercials for him.
Did him as Sequoia. I kind of want to lean it. I'm kind of leaning toward his dad being the backwoodsman because it sounds cool, but at the same time it also sounds slightly sinister. And kind of like sort of like the Unabomber, like kind of like environmental terrorism kind of thing, eco-terrorism. The kind of guy you almost want to root for because he's like, doing terrible things to people who are, doing terrible things to like oil pipelines and stuff. And Daystarson is the outsider, so he's annoying in a situation like this. Okay. So, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the bridge is kind of sketched out. It's meant to be sort of like a suspension bridge. So Surge is like there's cables to sort of delineate where the bridge is at. Some of the cables are out here and there. He laid down like, there's the suggestion of tarmac, that kind of deal, cars and whatnot. How do you approach this? Because Sequoia is going to primarily, I think, I got to look at what the actual Scion skill set is, but for all intents and purposes, we'll just make him really strong. Maybe some plant stuff or nature spirits or something like that. Anyway, not super relevant here. What's this look like for you?
How do I get from point A to point B?
How do you get from point A to point B? And I'm leading into this essentially initially being an overcome, and then we'll see from the complications like what actually happens there.
Right. So I'm going to I'm not going to bull my way through. Mostly, I'm going to go to the cables on the edge of the bridge and kind of, swing laterally across them.
Okay. So a brachiation kind of a deal going on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you want to assess the situation before you get in there?
It's Joe.
What's that?
It's Joe.
You said you're not bowling your way in there. I just figured I'd throw it out there. Like
he thinks he thinks he's being clever enough just doing that.
All right. In that case, why don't you give me an unleash your powers roll to overcome the obstacles as they stand.
Okay, and the unleash my powers is
That's freak.
Sure. Okay. Go back to the. Where's the? There we go. No situational bonus penalty. A 6.
A 6. Oh, look at that. That is a low roll.
Is that our first fail?
Tonight, yes.
No, I mean in the game.
No, there've been other 6s, but they've been fails on take a powerful blow, which is good. So if you want to air quote it, the GM has rolled 6s, but the players I don't think have at this point. All right.
By the way, did you add a team to our
Surge.
pool
I team to the
No,
pool.
you gain XP.
at the beginning of the game?
I will. Thank you. Gain XP, Joe.
Surge calls out, the bridge is unstable. You're making it worse.
So deal 1 card to me to get the team up in there. Yes, thank you. And yeah, so you go for the cable, and the first couple ones are good, and you're really looking forward to that third one because it's one of the ones that's hanging loose, and you figure you can get a good swing on, like because it's not really attached down below. And as soon as you get any kind of weight in it, not only, and you got to hand it to because it looks like the chintziest setup, kind of whatever. But as soon as you get your good weight on it, like first of all, it gives way too much. I was biking over actually from my place over to your neighborhood a couple weeks ago, and there was a point at which I had gone down this really rubble, detritus strewn sidewalk because from a lot of like snow being tossed up on it over the course of the last couple of months, and I took something in my tire that put a hole right through the inner tube, and the air began to leave the back tire rather precipitously. And I went from a normal pedaling situation to the bike suddenly being very sway-y from the tire squishing out from underneath of any pressure. And this thing, the cable that you're grabbing on and swinging down through, gives way too much. Like you drop a good extra 6 feet lower than you should on the swing. And then it springs back and brings you up a lot more, and all of the cables around it start bucking and bending and jerking kind of and going slack and going tight and stuff. And you're actually seeing like the cars and stuff, like jouncing around on the air quotes bridge. The bus is rocking down at the other end. It would be funny, except it's like in the middle of this thing, and Sequoia and Evan come to a dead stop because the floor is kind of bucking a little bit. You've seen this before. They did stuff with this gym floor, but this is the bit that's kind of funny is that there's cheap little Bluetooth speakers that he mounted into all of the little cardboard cars. And you see him like raise up like he's got this little controller, like just this crappy little like Toys R Us controller, and he brings it up and he pushes a button, and all of the cars are like, ah! It's like really really crappy tinny speaker sounds of like the families in the various cars and everything shrieking in terror. And he pushes another button, and somebody goes, "Mommy, mommy!" And then he pushes this other big red button, and you hear all the nuns shrieking out and calling to God down in the bus. That's the one decent speaker set that he's got, is for the bus. The nuns are like that one broadcasts like on the main speakers on the bus exactly. And then you hear, in case you didn't notice, the bridge is terribly unstable. And then he starts rattling off complications, just a mushroom cloud of complications that are happening. This car is sliding this way. This one's rolling backwards. The bus is starting to tip. The stress of this is causing more cables to get, and you see like a whole row of cables down along the opposite side from where you are go pling, 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 and start to release and swing. That's causing a hazard and all this other kind of stuff.
For color text, I've upload a video of the Tacoma Narrows bridge collapse.
On
On
the
the Discord channel.
that is absolutely, you know, like sort of the direction he's trying to,
Yeah.
you know, go with for that. The shock of this, the fact that it is clearly what you did that caused this. I'm gonna ask you to take a powerful blow, because like while this is all happening, like the class is like up in the bleachers, like everyone's like, ooh, oh, ah, oh god, like, and some of them are laughing their asses off because none of them have had anything go quite this spectacularly pear-shaped so fast. And so it's not so much like, strictly speaking, what's happening in the exercise as it is everyone's reaction to it.
Yeah.
While and you know, meanwhile Sequoia and Evan are like looking at each other and nodding like anime heroes and like darting off to like, you know, try to do damage control all the way along the bridge as they're doing stuff. And you're still kind of hanging from the cable, or swinging through this thing trying to figure out what to do next. So give me take a powerful blow. Let's see how you ride this shock.
Which is the flat 2d6, I think.
Plus your conditions, which you don't have. So
Which I don't have any. So.
Yep. Correct.
And then switch back to.
I think you can actually click. There's a die right above conditions. Roll something. Oh, you can do it that way. Hey, that's terrible. It's a bad roll.
I have so taken that powerful blow.
Look at me! I did. Oh God, the GM actually rolled a crit. Never mind. Okay.
You took it and ran. Is that what you're saying?
Take a powerful blow. I'm gonna.
Whacked it over my head a couple of times.
Oh, I'll take that powerful blow. I'll take 2 of them. No, wait, that's not what you want. On templates, choose 1. Remove yourself from the situation, flee, pass out, etc. Ooh, lose control of your powers in a terrible way, or take 2 options from the 7 to 9 list. I'm gonna have you pause right there while you ponder that. We're gonna hold right there as we see the stress clearly building up in Joe's face and his eyes. What to do there? Okay. Kiln.
All right.
Kiln. You are where? What are you doing? Let's not put you. I don't want to put you in the gym scene unless you desperately want to be in the gym scene. I want to put you someplace else.
I am stuck in applied mythology.
Ah,
And he's showing slides of like 1800 style archaeology and
talking about like antecedents and predecessors that would have influenced this.
and it's all complete BS.
You can see actually many of the lines of it in your own people's archaeology. You know, like, so clearly there was some influence there which he's not acknowledging, as diluted as it probably is. You have some magical ability. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Like, what kind of stuff do you do?
So it is essentially katana space and
Gotcha.
a kind of explosive fire spell of sorts.
Okay, but so pretty limited, really kind of battle magic type of stuff. But you're not any sort of, I don't know how to explain, campfire magic, like the kind of stuff that you would do. The kind of stuff that cantrips that you do around
tricks?
Yeah, can you do tricks around the campfire kind of stuff, whether it's useful cantrips or the kind of stuff that illustrates a story around the campfire kind of thing, or any of that sort of stuff. The soft skills. I don't know. You can say no. Like no, that like I'm pretty much a 2-trick pony, but
not the kind of, I think like maybe a few basic cantrips. I mean, it's fairly easy to turn a explosive into maybe just a small fire to do that kind of home magic, but not a, I don't know, you're more describing kind of like a shadow magic to tell stories.
Yeah, that kind of stuff that's what I was thinking of. Is that kind
Yeah,
of
no,
not really? All right, that's fine. That's
no.
fine. So so this is frustrating and annoying. He's missing some key points. And the only reason I'm asking is if there's some way in which you sort of like invoke some kind of power to illustrate your point, kind of a thing. But barring that, I can't remember the name of the. Who is this that you're? Did we give this guy a name? I can't remember if we gave
Yes,
this.
here,
What's it?
I can,
Yeah.
Dr. Gabriel Frith.
Frith.
There, in roll 20.
Great. Gotcha.
Of the Society of the Sacred Sand.
Oh my word. Oh, that dude. Right. I remember the picture. A very real world class. Okay. Is this one of those days where you decide to say something when you decide to like, push back?
No, I'm
No?
more sitting in the back of class, bored out of my mind. Occasionally, I was thinking I was gonna have Chris in there, who's kind of like ancienty magic, if I'm remembering correctly. With
Chris was Hellblade.
Hellblade.
Yeah. She's got kind of like the demon blade. I don't know if she's got magic. Goth witch is, well, some
I
magic.
feel like demon blades all have a little bit of magic in them. It's just kind
sure.
of my
It's
Yeah.
it's really
assumption.
easy. You can always ask it for answers to questions and tests.
Yeah. So
Some
we're
of the answers are disturbing.
just kind of occasionally rolling our eyes.
It's. I don't know whether Kiln would pick up on this or not, but it really seems. I mean, if you were the uncharitable sort, you would think that this guy is like doubling down on this, like knowing that like you can't imagine that the teacher's being that petty, but knowing that he is irritating you, he seems to be like upping the ante. The example that I thinking of, which just in terms of academia, is this book that I read not that long ago called Our Magnificent Bastard Tongue, which I highly recommend. If you're a linguistics nerd at all, it's the study of it's a study, not the study. It's a study of the English language and the evolution of the thing and influences and that sort of thing. And although they take their sweet time getting around to it, the central premise of the book is that most academics, the vast majority of academics, have utterly ignored the influence on English by the Celtic languages that are literally on the island with them, most notably Welsh, but also like any derivation, any of the various branches of Gaelic. When there's like clear linguistic patterns that exist really nowhere else in any other languages except Welsh, Gaelic, those kind of things, and in English, and they just kind of ignore those things. Just cropped up, whole cloth for no reason, rather than admit that they came from those languages. Because if they admit that they came from those languages, then the linguists have to learn Gaelic, and Gaelic is hard, so they don't want to.
And it's a language of those Celts.
Those Celts or those Welsh, those unimportant
Those Welsh, those Irish,
Right. So, but generally
They couldn't
speaking,
have had any influence on the good Anglo-Saxons.
a lot of it bearing down on the idea that we're just going to ignore this influence because otherwise it's inconvenient, and plus we'd have to learn a language that's super annoying to have to learn because it doesn't relate to anything else, and it's hard to begin with, and we just don't want to. And the reason I mention this is because he is all. He almost seems to purposely be picking a specific hill to defend with regards to this. That is mistakenly caught. You must explain this to me later. Okay. He seems to almost be selecting a hill to die on that's very purposely, like he's talking about these architectural nuances and stuff, and he's very clearly saying the influences for this come from here in a very direct line. There are no other influences, and there's no previous influences to that, full stop. Okay, so here's the architectural stuff of the 1800s. It goes back to the 1500s. That is a direct correlation back here to this particular religion, these two arguing with each other, generally speaking, and basically having architectural argument, expressing that argument through various architectural stuff. It gets back to about 800 AD, and that's where all of that originated. Full stop. No other influence prior to that. Because you might, he seems to have taken that stance of, and I'm going to ignore everything else because it's hard and inconvenient, and we're just not going to do it. Whether or not he actually believes it, he actually seems to be leaning even harder into it, to the point where he says, like, you will see some notation in your text about other possible theoretical influences on this architectural style dating even to BC times and other hypothetical, or one might even say fictional or fanciful civilizations that have been long debunked. Disregard all that. In fact, basically everything from 7.4 all the way through to the end of the 7th chapter, ignore all of that. It's not going to be on the test because, frankly, it's just wrong. Okay? He's clearly doubling down on the bit that would annoy you the most. Do you continue with your bored disregard for the whole thing? Yes is an absolutely cromulent answer. I just want you to know what he's doing, possibly in response to that. As I put James between an academic rock and a hard place. This is essentially what Kaylee goes through every single period that she has to go into history.
I've heard about the history teacher.
The history teacher is a bit of an American apologist, and also doesn't think anything happened after Kennedy was shot, anything of import, and she has beef, but that's a tale for another day. She's taking AP history next semester because I think she wants to hit above her weight.
AP US history is good.
Yeah.
Can recommend.
Yeah. Well, she's pulling a 99.9 right now, even though she argues with the guy all the time. So yeah, I think she needs to be swinging a heavier bat. Anyway. Or she does. So yeah, I mean, you can totally just.
No, this
shall not stand.
This is what pulls me out of the board, ignoring everything he's saying.
Okay.
You managed to poke enough buttons.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's going to do something one way or the other, so it's just a question of whether you say anything. All right, so do you? I mean, what's your take here? The hand goes up, and you start like. Do you start poking holes in that? Do you are you just saying you're blatantly ignoring all this other stuff? History doesn't just stop at 800 AD. That's ridiculous. What's your angle? Or do you start giving examples from your own
Yeah, no,
personal historic experience? That's fair.
I raise the hand, insisting that he calls on me.
Which he almost seems waiting to do. Yes, Kiln, you have input. You have thoughts, I hope.
Yes. I have a question for you.
I
Doctor.
am here to answer any and all questions. That is, in fact, my purpose.
Have you ever visited this city?
Can you be your own first-party source in your research paper? I think you would definitely need corroborating evidence, but it seems like that would be almost, I mean, kind of seems like it. Have I ever visited the city that houses this architecture? And he sort of gestures with both hands up to the stuff that's up on the screen. Yes, I have.
Really?
Yes.
Because I've also been there myself. And
Really?
back when it was a colony for my people, and we set up the first few buildings.
And this would have been when? The first colonies on that island were founded in, and he rattles off some, I mean, it's a BC point in time, but it's, 1100 BC or something like that. The first colonies would have been then. You were there with your people in 1100 BC, which is patently wrong for you.
I was there with my people in 470 BC, which, looking at the textbook in the 7.3 section, is when all evidence points there to have been the first colony, not in 1100.
Really? So you're saying that that there's textual evidence within the text that I've already told you to disregard. He says kind of to the rest
Part
of
of
the
the 7.3 section, you told us to disregard from 7.4 onwards.
Oh!
Fair enough. Yeah, exactly. And you're saying there's textual evidence there that supports your argument that, again, you were there, which, granted, given this university is not entirely ridiculous on its face, not wholly, wholly poppycock, and that I have somehow missed that. That's your assertion.
Yes, Doctor. That's why I was so surprised to hear you say that there was no evidence of prior civilization or prior influence from any outside civilizations.
Are you trying to get him to sort of concede that he what do I want to say? Kind of concede that he may have missed something here that he needs to are you trying to get him to sort of concede that he missed a tag here? Is that what you're going for? Getting him to back down off of this, or what are we going for? Because if so, I'm gonna probably have you go for a provoke on this to just see if you can get him to make a move here, one way or the other. Actually, well, no, I take that back. Because he's not necessarily going to wait for you to do that. What he's initially going to say is, I understand, Kiln. It seems to bother him that you don't have a surname that he can drop
Mr.
a Mr. or a Miss or something. He doesn't have a surname to drop on. Every time he says your name, there's a short pause where he's got to like reevaluate, annoyingly use what for him is the familiar of your first name, because it's your own name. What you seem to be saying, Kiln, is that the experience of your own senses, your alleged experiences of your own senses, combined with anecdotal relationships that you seem to have spotted, patterns that you seem to have spotted within the text that we're using to support this, supersedes the expertise of generations of historians who have studied this space. Your personal knowledge to be held over, personal knowledge as you as you perceive it, to be held over years and years of expertise and applied professional knowledge in the field. And I'm not the least amount of hyper scientific and paranormal research in that same field. I would submit, another pause, Kiln, that you should approach the subject, given your vast experience in historical matters, with a bit more humility and a bit more acknowledgement of the expert minds around you from which you have come to learn. So what he's going to do, what he's attempting to do, is shift your labels. Mundane up and superior down. Be more humble. Don't be such a smartass. Sit down and let me lecture. What do you do?
I absolutely push back against that.
Okay. When you resist influence from somebody, you roll. There is no additional thing that you add to it. You just do a roll. It's in the peripheral moves that we have as a sheet there, I believe. And it is when you reject someone's influence, roll on a hit, et cetera, so forth. But it's just a straight up roll, which on your character sheet you can
The
just
flat 2d6.
Yep, just the
reject
flat.
someone's
Yep,
influence.
just
About 2d6.
Yep, just the flat 2d6. That is your huckleberry for this one. Oh. Okay. So. Because he's dissing all of your personal experience, the history of your people, and that kind of thing. And this apparently gets a bit under your skin. Let's look at this.
On a miss.
On a miss. Why won't my screen? Oh, it's because it's already up. This is a problem. It won't switch screens for me. On a miss, their words hit you hard. Mark a condition, and the GM will adjust your labels. So I'm actually not going to shift the labels the same way that he wants, but I am going to shift your labels. I am going to. I am going to shift your danger up. I will do this. I will click on the thing. I'm going to shift your danger up and shift your superior down. And
I'm sorry, which down?
Superior. Superior down, danger up. And this is kind of a see red moment kind of a thing. And I'm on the miss of words here. Mark a condition. Mark a so you pick the condition that you mark.
I'm taking angry. Me and Alex are anger buddies right now.
Now I'll let you clear anger right now. Just like basically snap the corner off the desk or something equally destructive and storm out of the room. Or, seethe. In which case you won't clear angry, but you won't have a broken desk and a reason to go to detention.
I mean, we're all winding up there eventually.
Yeah.
That certainly seems to be where the
There will be a detention episode. That absolutely is going to happen, but
There have been like 5 different detention
But I haven't done
episodes
anything bad yet.
in the forum so
we're gonna need
far.
to watch The Breakfast Club before the next episode.
that is, I
Um,
mean, I love that movie, but it is highly problematic these days. It did not age well. But God, I love that movie. Anyway, but I'm the carrot, the dangling carrot is out there. The dangling anger carrot is out there for you.
I do think I'll go for a destruction of sorts.
Okay.
And I'm debating between the projector and my book.
Throw the book at the projector.
2 for 1.
The book is objectively correct. It agrees with you. The book did nothing wrong.
The
Fair
book
enough.
did nothing wrong.
Projector.
Do not read from the book.
So, burst of fire? I believe we mentioned that you can do a burst of
Yes.
fire.
Yes, the projector experiences technical difficulties.
Okay. So, all right. As we're about to have that happen, as we see the fire in Kiln's hand, Mette. I think we got everybody. Yeah, Mette. We have Alex racing toward a something in the science lab, 3rd floor, that's winding up noisily. We have Sync. What did you say to Surge? Like what's the job you're sort of doing to be in there? You had I'm gonna actually say that that's the thing you're doing. So what was that? What were you?
I'm a teaching assistant.
So you're like right there alongside
The teacher, yeah.
well, not the guest, the guy. He's the teacher of the day kind of thing for this classroom. So you're like right there as the hold this for me for a second. Kid.
Rod is loving it.
Power. That's a name.
Powertronic.
It sounds like a lounge chair.
Now I won't forget it. Powertronic. So Sync's right there, and he's like, "Yo, hold this for me." With the mechanical kind of Iron Man kind of like, "Hold this for me for a second, kid." And Sync, wasn't it? Cool name. And
My name is cool.
Joe dangling from a cable, and we see the rage building in his face. And Kiln, fire in his hand, glaring at the teacher, and then his eyes shifting up to the projector. I will return to your love letter. Roll superior. On a hit, you remember a critical moment about to come to pass. You can enter any scene that you are not already in and state one thing you are trying to avert or achieve, and take +1 forward when acting on that objective. Go. And
Okay.
I hope, my only hope here is that the choice is relatively difficult because
It is.
I feel like
It
I
is
feel like
challenging.
I feel like you guys primed all four of you people primed the well beautifully. Thank you so much. It's genius stuff all the way around.
I'm going to go with Joe's predicament because it ties back to that whole realizing that Serge is the martyr.
Okay.
And so that sort of
And there's also another.
Yeah, your relationship thing with Joe is that like he did something, he's going to do something bad, or he's going to, right?
Sorry,
Like
I'm. Yes, please continue, Margie.
yeah, sorry,
My apologies.
didn't mean to jump on you there, but I like that extra nuance to it too.
yeah, so actually what I am trying to not necessarily prevent, because I don't know that history can be prevented at this point,
Uh-huh.
right? Don't know what the impact of that is, but I'm trying to minimize the damage because this is the day that Serge gets sued by several students' parents for conducting unsafe
Okay.
activities in the superhero gym.
And he's sort of like necessarily on probation anyway, just because of his old relationship. So this makes everything super tense and difficult at the school and all this other kind of stuff. I like it a lot.
That's great.
And
Okay.
so what I'm trying to do is actually not prevent it, because like I said, I don't know that can happen. But if I can at least minimize some of the damage so that it's not
Okay.
not as big an event and quite blow up the same way that it does. I think that I'm going to be, supporting him because, oh my gosh, he's the martyr. I haven't really, when you wake up on something like that, you don't necessarily, go through that whole thought process of, well, but what if this event is what causes him to reevaluate his life and become more what martyr is? So I haven't gotten that far. I'm
So
just like, oh my gosh, this is like
he's this person and
this
this is
is
a bad
the
day for
black
him.
mark.
Yeah.
This is like the black mark on his history.
Right. Gotcha. And you realize that thing and going to it. Now, I'm in my head, while this is going on, is also when Sync is up with Powertronic. I keep wanting to say Positronic. Powertronic. And
Yeah, that's City of Heroes.
yeah, and it's not Nick, it's Positron. Powertronic and Alex is headed up for the science lab.
Correct.
Okay. So
and somebody's about to blow up the vintage
well, that may or may not be
projector device.
that may have been at a different point in the day. It didn't all have to be happening right exactly at the same moment. But stuff is still happening. So Mette, you're coming in, and are you coming in and acting? Are you staying in and shouting something? Are you shouting something to Joe? Are you doing something to like interfere with the exercise as such? Things get wildly out of hand. Joe's about to be at a point where he's theoretically losing control of his powers in a terrible way. So
You're making an assumption, but
I'm just saying the risk is there. So there's a whole bunch of stuff happening there. But you're aware that, and when you come in, what you see is the bridge is bucking, and the electronic speakers in the cars are mommy, screaming nuns, Surge is like the bridge is unstable and things are bucking and everybody's and people are yelling in the bleachers and that kind of thing.
So what we don't see
Uh-huh.
is, because everybody is focused on the bucking bridge and the cardboard, nuns and all of that, is that there's so part of the mechanical part of the simulation is a hydraulic system underneath
The floor, yeah.
the platform that they use for the bridge.
Yeah.
And so that moves, moves items, up and down, back and forth, whatever. And so they're looking at the constructed scene, not the reality. And so the reality is that there's a part in the hydraulics that is about to fail. And when it does, it's going to pretty much like, take out the entire bleachers. Like
the floor itself is going to like
as something
spike up.
shears off. Yeah, so as something shears off from the machinery, it kind of, destroys the. I mean, it's one of those Rube Goldberg sort of things.
Yeah.
So
Chain reaction.
the machine fails, a part goes flying out at sonic speed, shears off the supports for the bleachers that the kids are on, and since they're all yelling and bouncing around, the whole thing falls, and
Sure.
other things fall in on top of them, and it's a big mess.
We're seeing like in flashbacks and stuff, like things that you've studied, like things that you were studying when you came back here, like little, like, newspaper clippings and stuff. We're seeing like what you're seeing as the thing that happens. Elsewhere in the building, we're seeing, as Alex is closing in on the science lab, the first, however this is represented in the comic books, but the wavy lines are on the thing that indicate that these devices are doing one of their first sort of intentional pulses. Okay. And whether or not it's solely responsible for it, at least one of the things that's happening is that pulse is having an acceleratory effect on the mechanics or the overheating or the malfunctioning within the gym several floors away, by like, causing the mechanics and so forth to just overdo. So the bucking bridge is like when we see the pulse hit the gym, what we see is the bucking on the bridge dramatically intensifies. Okay.
Okay.
And that's also when we see up in Powertronic's speech, he's like in the middle of the thing. So what you have to remember, and the pulse comes through, and he kind of turns, and you see him kind of turn and look up and through the ceiling, basically straight up to where the science lab, and is like, "Well, that's not good." He kind of turns back to the class, like, and then looks back up and like looks back like, should I be? I mean, this really isn't my neighborhood, but it kind of feels like I should be doing something here, kind of like body language kind of stuff as this is happening.
Roddy gives him 2 thumbs up.
Like, completely not even caring about any of this other stuff.
Completely misreading the situation.
I love that. Well, I'm going to give the opportunity to properly read that situation in just a second here, but in any case, possibly. Joe, you've got a consequence to kind of pick here in terms of what you're doing. So all of this stuff is happening. The bucking is getting more intense. It seems a bit excessive, honestly, in response to what happened for it to be as bad as it is. So there's, on top of everything else, this kind of threat of annoyance is like, that Surge is laying this on awfully thick, for one bad cable swing, kind of deal. But in any case, so remove yourself from the situation, flee, pass out, lose control of yourself in a terrible way. 2 options from 7 line lists. What say you, Mighty Joe Young?
Well, I mean, the obvious assumption is that he's something, losing control of his anger and everything in a terrible way. So, yeah, sure. Joe shouts at the kids who are laughing in the bleachers, "You think this is funny? You think this is funny? If this was real, it would be terrible. And starts to yank down on all the cables of the bridge to tear it down.
Okay. Wow, okay.
Which probably doesn't help the part that's about to fail.
It doesn't at all help but it certainly keeps them, so yeah. Your powers as such are basically just very strong and all of that other stuff. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, you're basically trashing the exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to rub it in that they're sitting there laughing at me, but they're also laughing at the situation. And if I had really blown this the way I've apparently done, a lot of people would be hurt.
Yes.
And they're laughing at it. And they're laughing at me about it.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm holding down. I'm going to think of. First of all, I'm going to file this away because I want to think about like what that does with your relationship with the class further down the road. But I gotta ruminate on that. So, Mette, you're coming in. Joe is yelling at the people in the stands about in the bleachers about what's going on. Surge isn't. I mean, he's paying attention to that, but he's actually looking around like this is not like he's run this simulation for like the last 4 years dozens of times. He knows what this is supposed to behave like when this thing goes sideways. I mean, it's not like it's the first person swinging from cable to cable he's ever had. It's not the first time it's ever gone pear-shaped. He knows what it's supposed to look like. He knows this is wrong. Okay? The class is reacting to Joe, and Joe is basically ripping the stuff, clean out of the ceiling in a couple of places, and that stuff's not going to be repaired very quickly, kind of deal, and definitely potentially making the situation worse than it is, and also is distracting Surge from possibly doing something that would prevent the rest of the stuff happening. So his attention is torn between what's going on with Joe and what he should probably actually be paying attention to. What do you do?
So what I'm focusing on is what I know is going to happen, which is the
floor, that kind of
the
stuff.
floor and the device.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to do is use my gravity to dampen the kind of dampen the movement of the device, as well as create a shield between with the device on one side and me and the bleachers and the kids on the other side.
Device on one side and me and the bleachers and the kids on the other.
In other words, I'm standing with my back to the bleachers and I'm trying to both dampen the bucking down, but I'm also trying to when this thing starts blowing up that I have like it it's not going to fly as far because now it weighs 10 times what it should weigh and can't break orbit.
Sorry, I got slightly distracted there. My daughter, adorable person that she is trying to step on my toes while she's giving me a hug, and my toes really hurt from a long run that I had on Saturday, and I'm trying to stay away, and she thinks it's hilarious that I'm playing keep away with my feet and trying to step on my bruised tootsies. Anyway, all right, so I think I'm good. I think this is a defend. I wanted to, it could be unleash your powers, but it's definitely a defend for the people that you're trying to protect.
Okay.
I think it's just dead obvious. So that would be a savior roll for you.
Okay.
What say you?
Whoa!
Dude.
Double!
Yeah.
Box cars. Man, that's not a
point, right?
That's
Double?
no. That's not a roll you expect that's not a number that you expect to get with a +1. That is pretty that is pretty fabulous. Okay. All right. So defend someone or something from an immediate threat. Roll savior. Add team to the pool. Take influence over someone you protect. Clear a condition. Since it's a 13, off the table on this particular list of things. So I direct you back to the list of the homeroom people.
Is this an NPC? I guess it's an NPC threat.
Yeah, it's an NPC threat, but it's the NPCs that you're protecting in this case. Because of like sort of how you positioned it, Daystarson and Sequoia and Joe aren't people that you can take influence over, or Surge, because they're not. It's the people in the bleachers.
Okay.
Sync's not there, and neither is Alex.
Right.
Accepting those people, pick 2 and take influence over them. Sorry. That's only if you want influence. I should say if you want influence, you get. I'm saying if you want influence, take influence over 2 people, not just 1, because it is a 13. It's gorgeous and lovely, and
should be celebrated.
Should be celebrated with an additional thing.
I'm sorry, Dave. Can you ping me the link for the relationship map?
Sure.
It is.
I also posted in the Discord we were on,
and
but
it is. It's in the chat also in Roll20, just underneath your roll.
So many channels.
Yeah, there's so many channels. So you ponder that.
Okay.
So what does she end up doing?
So for all intents and purposes, she basically makes all the bridge stuff. She's mentioning gravity, like everything out there in the bridge area gets exceedingly heavy. Okay, so which doesn't really hurt Joe's particular efforts at all, because while you're heavier, you're also stronger. Your whole purpose is to drag stuff down out of the ceiling anyway and wreck all this stuff. Downward momentum stuff is not getting harder. So while you might be getting drugged down off the cables as a general sort of field effect kind of thing, you're still absolutely trashing stuff. You're just fighting this overwhelming downward force. You can see Mette out there with like some of her like strap-on things on her arms and hands that she's using, and she's kind of like got her arms out, sort of Marvel Quake style kind of finger spread, doing kind of a lowering motion and stuff, and feeling that on there, and in some, yeah, but you can see all the cars kind of crushing flat, but also just like extensively, you're actually seeing the bucking of the bridge. Yeah, all the bucking of the bridge does seem to be settling down somewhat. So, Alex, you feel that pulse. It doesn't have the effect that you would expect an EMP, even a light one, even a distant one, or anything like that, to have on your stuff, on your electronics that it might otherwise have. It's actually a surge of it's an overclock. For all intents and purposes, an overclock effect on the mechanical elements of your cybernetics. Which in some cases makes it a little bit harder to control, but as general, I mean, yeah, everything just kind of surges stronger. During the surge for like, call it 5-10 seconds. If that were maintained, it would definitely be unsafe. And you're skidding into the third, and skidding legitimately because you're going faster than you probably would otherwise, coming out of the stairs, turning a corner, and kind of skidding in the hallway outside of the science lab, where this thing's coming from. Describe what this looks like. What are you doing? There's people out there like still in the hallway and stuff, because they're, there's kids in the hallway doing this. Some of them are yelling about their phones, or various things like, that kind of stuff. What else is going on? What are you doing? What's it look like?
Well, I'm probably going to do the hallway slide by accident if I'm struggling to keep control.
Yeah.
So Alex had, you had mentioned schematics of the building earlier. So Alex
Yeah.
has a good idea of where the breaker box is.
Yeah.
So they are probably going to be pushing through people. Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
It's inside the classroom. You'd seen it in like one of the webcams that you were looking at there. It's like you verified it's up there, kind of mounted in like a load bearing. There's a one of those things along the wall where it's like a bulge for no reason, where the wall comes out 3 inches and then goes. And in that load bearing support pillar kind of thing, they've also mounted the breaker inside the room. So that the teacher can run over there and slap stuff, slap breakers shut to shut down various things, that sort of deal. So you're skidding, bouncing maybe off of a couple of and bending the doors in on a couple of blockers that line the hallway, that kind of deal.
My bad, sorry. And I'll get in the room and I'll make a beeline for that for the box.
Is it punch everything kind of a deal? Actually having some sort of precision to the deal?
I will use precision. I'm gonna yank this thing down in a way that gives us a clean shutdown.
I am going to, because there's enough going on here that there's a possibility that this thing has become like self-replicating. Cutting the power is not going to be the thing that you need to do, that kind of deal. I am also going to ask for a defend, I think, because you are essentially defending the school from this stuff.
Oh no! Don't throw me in that briar patch.
Yeah, I was going to say, savior. Oh no, soldiers hate rolling savior. It's the worst thing ever. Okay, so 3-2-2, that gets you a 7, and the defend roll, I think that's put yourself in danger or something. 7-9.
Or escalate the situation.
Or escalate this.
I choose the danger. Hell of a time to ask.
Yeah, what? All right. I think so. It protects everybody. That's done. There is either a fail-safe or just feedback or the wind down as this thing is losing power. There's like it is a discharge as the thing is winding down. It's more localized, so it's not necessarily affecting the rest of the school, but it hits you. So I'm going to have you take a powerful blow, I think, since you're putting yourself at risk for this, to kind of rock that. Oh, Lord D. You had a condition? Oh, yeah, you had angry. Not that it would have mattered one way or the other. Okay, so take a powerful blow. Your options, same really as Joe's. Remove yourself from the situation by fleeing, passing out, lose control of yourself or your powers in a terrible way. 2 options from the 7-9 list.
I like the remove yourself situation thing. I want to say the limbs short out for a while, so Alex is just going to be laying on their back complaining.
I love it. That's great. And actually, yeah, I really kind of like that. Just the you get down, you're like, and you hear this like whining. You're like, ah, crap, and you're like, and everything kind of just, those little like, well, those kind of plastic people. You can buy them. You used to be able to buy them like in gas stations and stuff, where you could make the little guy like dance a little bit by pushing the bottom stand that the guy was on, and it would release or loosen the strings that were strung up through this little bead guy, so he would kind of collapse or he'd lean over and stuff like that. It's just like that whole like, yeah, you just ragdoll. I don't even know how to describe what I just.
City of Heroes Ragdoll Physics line 10.
If you know the little stupid toy thing that I'm describing, it's dead obvious, and if not, it probably just sound like I'm talking.
It's held together with elastic which holds it tight, and then you push the bottom, and that releases the elastic, so it all goes. Bleh.
Okay. So that's Alex. They're in the back. Collapse on the floor. Save the school. You have an option there for add team to the pool, take influence over someone you protect, clear condition. If I mean, I like the idea of you kind of like winding down, like basically being forced into a into an enforced timeout, which lets your anger fade. But you could also take influence over the first person that finds you and figures out what was going on there. So I mean, there's lots of options.
I don't know. So sell me on that. Who would that be? If you don't know, I'll take suggestions from the peanut gallery as well.
It could be I mean, certainly an interesting option would be a teacher who has realized, like, you know, once they're able to put together what all was done in here, or I'll throw this Hellbinder, because of the potential difficulty in the school here and everything that this would cause. You know, gratitude there, heads up play, that kind of deal. And take.
I feel like it's too early to take influence over Hellbinder, so I'm going to pass on that one.
Yeah, just throwing it out there.
I will clear angry in that case.
Okay. So eventually, yeah, by the time anybody finds you, you've pretty much gotten kind of a Zen attitude about the whole thing.
Yeah, Alex is sitting here going like, you know, only a Navy man knows when he's had enough to drink. That's why you can't tell a Navy man how he's had enough to drink. Kiss my ass, you ain't no Navy man. And just doing like skits and stuff like that.
I will say that by the time anybody finds you, I mean, it's probably like halfway through a class period. By the time anybody finds you, your systems are starting to come at least somewhat online. So you're kind of sitting up. You're not completely ragdolled. You're like sitting up. Your legs really aren't good yet, but you managed to get yourself in a sitting position up against the wall. And there's even the occasional, like, you'll go to do a gesture while you're doing your skits and your arm will actually move, and it's like, and you're the Princess Bride quotes come out. It's like, you think a thumb wiggle is going to cheer me up, that kind of a thing. Except you're talking to your hand.
Yeah.
As the class, people start falling into class and are like just looking at you sitting there like, what are you doing, kind of stuff. Teacher comes in, sees the stuff, is like, okay, clearly people have been messing with this stuff. All right, disassemble it all down to component parts. Anything that you don't recognize from the schematics that I handed out for the thing we're supposed to be building right now, that all goes in the bin. And he's got like a bin, like just a big plastic bin where everybody's like chucking these extra bits. You see probably like at least half of these things have been fitted with these extra gizmos and stuff that all, like, after comparison and stuff, and the class quickly comes to the conclusion that these are extra bits that weren't necessary, and chuck them in the bin without really realizing what they might have been doing. There. So, and back to sync. Let me get sync up here real quick. All right. So you did see Powertronic. Thank you, Margie. I'm never going to forget his name now that I'm associating it with a Barca Lounger.
You're welcome.
You did see Powertronic really kind of pause in the middle of his thing and really just utterly abandon whatever he was saying at that point in time. He's staring up kind of through the ceiling. His eye sockets on the helmet are rotating, dialing in, focusing, unfocusing, narrowing, opening, as he's
Not hearing you here.
Not hearing me?
Yes.
Ironically, right as you said, that Paratronic just dropped what he was about to say.
Yeah. He just
we thought you were being dynamic or dramatic.
No, he just completely abandons everything that he was about to say, and he's like staring up through the ceiling, like up in the direction of the science lab, and his eyes are practically going through a calibration sequence, because it's like focus, unfocus, narrow, widen, as he's sort of reading various Um, spectrum readouts, power readouts, all this kind of stuff. This goes on for about 10, 15 seconds. He even takes a couple of somewhat hesitant steps towards the door, like he's about to go and do something. And then he stops, tilts his head a little bit, and goes, huh. Huh. Turns around. And he resumes back with his speech. From below, elsewhere in the school, there's, a sort of directionless rumble kind of thing. But I mean, this is Phoenix Academy. That kind of crap just happens. Okay. That's
Oh, is it 12:30 already?
The stampede to the cafeteria has begun.
The rooms have very good insulation.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say support beams, I mean like beams
Down to the bedrock.
down to the
He looked
bedrock of the
here
island.
1,000 meters deep.
Yep. At the end of the period, Sync, he's kind of, the class is going on, he's shaking hands and stuff like that. Giving advice, don't do that. It's like, keep this up. You're going to be great. Love the hair. You not so much, but you'll make it work for you. It's fine. And kind of doing that, kind of Tony Stark pitter patter sort of thing as people are going out. And he shakes the hand of the teacher and the person who's kind of hosting this whole thing. Hellbinder's there for a hot second, and it's a little bit more formal. He kind of stands up. He's like, I appreciate the HHL sending somebody, sending someone so illustrious to, come here and speak to the kids as well. I'll always do it for the kids. Check things out, see how it's all going out here. Seems to be running smoothly. Seems to be. There's a little bit of tension there, a little bit of, certain formality, that kind of thing. And Hellbinder, nods, well, appreciate that feedback. Kind of double takes it Sync, because he's pretty damn sure that he didn't actually set any of that up for you to be here. But who knows? The teacher probably thinks that Hellbinder did it. Hellbinder thinks the teacher did it. Whatever. Kids are going to kid. Once things have kind of died down a little bit, Powertronic's kind of going over. He's collecting up some of the stuff that he used to kind of illustrate, whatever the talk is. Sync, for the record, you have no damned idea whatever it was he was talking about for this entire speech. You couldn't tell word one about whatever it was he was talking about.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's just like he talked for the whole thing, and it was so cool. What did he talk about? It does. I mean, does it matter? Like, really? Kind of thing.
He's been talking about stuff. I've been mentally going over what I'm going to talk to him about when he finally starts talking to me.
So this is that horrible bad habit in the conversation of just waiting until the other person, like you're not listening, you're waiting for the other person to talk. You've been doing that for an hour. And he actually starts talking to you. You almost don't realize he's talking to you because he doesn't. He starts talking to you before he's even turned around. He's packing everything up. Interesting decision, choice that you make here coming to Phoenix Academy. Sync, right? Sync. I've been reading about you. I've been reading about you.
You have?
Well, during the speech while I was talking, pulling up files, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that must be your data uplink that you're using.
Yeah, it is.
That's so cool.
Geeked out.
It's really. Boy. I mean, you're a sharp kid. I think you're doing. I think you're probably in the place you need to be because of the school can provide. This school can provide a lot of guidance and insight into what it's like to be a hero, what works and what doesn't work. Out there. Not everything works out there, but everybody can be. I think everybody can be a hero, and I think there's a lot of different ways to be a hero. Think about that. You seem like a great kid. Everything I'm seeing
But
in
are
your
you
file.
more like support sidekick material?
I mean, we've got some people in the HHL that are basically the real heroes of the HHL, and you never really hear about them because they're the ones that are getting us where we need to be, and you know, giving us the information we have, so I don't go blundering around like an idiot, and really, they're not in the line of fire, but that's okay for them. They don't need to be in the line of fire. They don't. They're not all walking around, in a tin suit with a cool HUD. And to be fair, it's a really cool HUD. And he kind of taps his chest a little bit to re-emphasize that whole armor thing.
I know what you're doing, and I hate it. Stop it. I don't like this.
Kaylee is leaping to your defense, Mike. Just so you know.
Yeah.
And he's, I just, think about that because, man, I think you could be really something truly amazing. You just got to find your niche. Use that noggin, and we don't all have to be dodging bullets to do the big thing. We don't have to.
Oh yeah, dodging bullets. If you check the school records, I have the highest accuracy on that outside of speedsters.
That's really amazing. Just
I have 144 dodges out of 147.
yeah, those last three are. It's those last three that kind of get you though. Those things. I mean,
It
I
was
remember
the first three. After I figured out bullet trajectories, it was a lot easier.
Yeah, you don't usually get to keep dodging after the first three hit you though. Not for real. Just think about it, kid. Think about what I'm saying. And he's trying to shift your labels. He's trying to shift your superior up and your I'm gonna say your danger down. Use that head. Stay out of the fight. Stay out of the fight, kid. Now what I should be doing is moving up your mundane, but he does acknowledge that you've got a hell of a head on your shoulders. So and he highly, one would say, overvalues the head on somebody's shoulders. So superior up, danger down. Just keep it in mind, kid. There's a bloop. Why is there a bloop? Somebody did a chat thing.
Roll point.
I like how all the adults are trying to have Sync think and bump up his superior. So what do you think? What do you think, Sync? Are you rolling with that? Are you kind of going
Oh
with that?
no, he's going with it.
Oh, he's going with it? All
Yeah,
right.
it
Of
is.
course.
He ain't rejecting. He isn't rejecting what his idol is going to say to him. It's like, no. I understand entirely.
All right. That's great. I tell you what,
I have to be a team leader.
thank you for thanks for kind of hosting me, man. You took care of me, kept me from looking like an idiot up here, took care of everything. I tell you what, you not this weekend. I'm kind of booked this weekend, but shoot some. I'll tell them to keep an eye out. Shoot a message over to the HHO. Say you want to come by for a tour, and I said I was going to give you a little walkthrough next Saturday. Not this Saturday. Not this Saturday. I'm in Reykjavik this Saturday. Next Saturday. Yeah, shoot him. Shoot him a thing. Tell him not too early in the morning though. Like late in the morning, like 2 in the afternoon.
It'll be in your inbox by 2 p.m.
Bring your bring some of your friends over. We'll do a little tour of the HSL. We'll kind of let me show off a little bit. Look like a hero for a little bit.
Oh dear.
You think? Yeah, come on over.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. And he puts his fist out for the little fist bump kind of thing. All right. So that's what you guys still do this, right? The fist bump thing? You still do that?
Yeah, we still do that.
All right, cool. Excellent. All right, I'm going to get going. Sync. Talk to you 2 weeks, Saturday, 2 o'clock or later. Later's fine. And we're going to go. And then he actually flies out through the door, which is really not indicated as a good idea. You have not yet impressed the person that you not yet earned the respect of the hero you admire, but the door is open.
Oh yeah.
We're moving that way. All right.
So-
Alex, save the school. Mette, save the school. You got the thing. Joe is ripping things apart. Kiln! Oh my God, Kiln! We're blasting the projector.
Do we still have a projector in
Do we
room
still have a
5?
well, I think that's clear. We don't have a projector, but none of this. This was actually like 2 hours later. So in the classroom, we have Joe like still kind of scowling over in the corner, and Mette looking concerned and brow creased, and Sink still floating on cloud 9 from everything, and Alex, Alex almost looking resigned, like they can see this coming, and the fireball taking this stuff up. And so the fireball goes, the projector goes, and the smile on the teacher's face as the bell rings a few seconds later, like everyone's dead silence when this thing happens. The bell rings, smile as broad as you can imagine on this guy's face, almost too broad. It's like, and he again that pause. Kiln, see me after school, and we will discuss your detention.
Yeah.
Broad smile. Okay, we're gonna stop there because it is late, and I ran a little bit over because I started a little bit late, and I apologize. Hopefully that is not too disruptive for everybody. Lots going on there. Things that I have in the back of my head. I think I need to. We're probably gonna loop back a little bit because I want to kind of wrap up a little bit. Mette, the stuff that you remember having happened does not happen. Not the way there was some disruption. Certainly the bleachers are somewhat slightly damaged. They're not retracting correctly, like back up to the wall like they should. But the kids definitely, like the students, are not hurt. Once that starts to happen, it gets Serge's attention enough that he can use some of his abilities because he's got magnetics still as one of his like loaded in things, and he's also able to damp it down because he's not distracted, or not as distracted. By the time they get you collectively get the floor under the control, Joe has utterly trashed everything. I mean,
I feel detention coming on.
Sequoia and Evan are just sitting, like standing amidst the wreckage. Like, I mean, do we get a do-over? Like, what do we even, like, any of that kind of stuff? The bell goes.
Evan is standing in such a way that as the stuff Joe pulls down, it creates just the right breeze against his hair.
Just wafting. And Roy is. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to be fair, people walking through the hallway next to him does the exact same.
That's fair.
Yeah, bold assumption, his hair just isn't always slightly blowing backwards.
True.
So good.
Not that I would have noticed that.
Yeah, you would absolutely notice that. Meanwhile, Roy is staring fixedly at Mette, like just absolutely fixedly at Mette and what she's doing. Not quite admiration. You don't even know exactly how to. Like anybody looking at it would have trouble reading even the expression. So the floor, the mechanics kind of wind down. We hear the floor kind of, and then the bell goes. All right, we're not going to get to another exercise today, obviously. Everyone off to your next class. Young, not you. You're going to be late. You're going to be very late. Get the brooms. Everybody else is filing out. All right. So, yeah, there's definitely going to be a team detention. Kiln Ninja.
Wait, what did I do?
No, Kiln Ninja. No, group. Not all group detention. Not yet. You're fine. You're fine.
I'll show up for it anyway. I'm just asking. Like,
Guilty conscience, Alex?
Now,
just boredom.
I think. Well, I
Do you
had
want my 2 names?
say that again.
Do you want my 2 names for influence?
Oh yes, please. Or just note it on your character sheet. But do tell me who you took.
I took Kid Cool and 7 Year. In part
Ooh.
because they don't have a lot of arrows going to them, and so I wanted to give them some
So there's
extra connection.
for whatever reason they're super impressed, and this is interesting to me, especially Kid Cool, that they're paying attention enough to know what you to kind of realize how much you did. Um, so that is interesting and pretty neat. I'm the reason I'm pausing is because we should be doing end of session moves, but like 3 of you guys weren't in the classroom, like weren't in spaces with each other for like really at all. So
Remember, every other time.
and we did do it last
That
time.
works.
Did we do it
We
last
did do
time?
it last time.
Yeah, because I do kind of feel like we've got the second half of this stuff going on here for the next thing, and I think maybe next session's love letter is Joe. Maybe. Maybe. More to come. Session yeah, obviously I could really go to anybody. I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening with everybody. I'm trying to think where the handoff is, where we find out a little bit more about X. I think maybe Joe, maybe, because he got awfully angry. I like how you leaned into that. So the thing is, usually the lose control of your powers in a terrible way is like people are damaged, that kind of stuff, Joe. So I will say that didn't happen. Very specifically didn't happen. That would have completely flipped the table on Margie's thing, for one thing. But I think socially, well, I think a lot of people in this school might be leaning. If Mette were to come in and say, that she has concerns about Joe because of blah blah blah. Not that she ever would, but if Mette were to say that, there'd be a lot of people, at least in your homeroom, who'd be like, "Oh yeah, I can totally see that right now. Yeah, totally." So there's that kind of damage. Not like you hurt a bunch of people, but a lot of people are like, "I don't know about him, man." I mean, this is a school for heroes, kind of a thing. Little bit of that noise. Cool. So have you rocking that stuff? Okay, cool. Anything else? Any other footnotes? Next time I want to be here. Any of that kind of stuff. Did everybody get some good stuff going on? Are anybody happy?
Thank you for my love letter.
The only thing.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. The only thing I was saying was I had a little funny thing to punch Alex while they're down, but that was about it.
To punch Alex while they're down.
I absolutely want that to happen. So yeah.
That's in the Discord.
Oh, I gotta see it. I walked into Kaylee's room here. Where's the Discord? So many screens up. Bucking. There's the thing and the the thing with the guy collapsing. Was that the one?
No.
Oh, I like that.
They're down.
Keep scrolling.
Yep. It's after gonna want to use baby powder.
The scene with Sink and Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's the best thing you've done today in my eyes. Thanks. Yeah, if that happens while Alex is still immobilized, even better. Okay, cool. I got to thinking about the love letter thing. I kind of like the idea of using that almost as like character intros for the first little series of sessions. I think that's kind of cool. Fun to do for classroom type stuff. So yay, figure out what we're going to lean into there with that. I mean, obviously, Sync's love letter is going to come when we go to the HHL. So I mean, that's just We get a little bit of, we get some Aegis action with Alex's. So yeah, good stuff there. Kiln, we get into like the historical, proto-historical mystery plot some more, things like that. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. It has nothing to do with the fact that Mette was the only love letter that I had really, really fleshed out and totally loved. Joe, you're Joe's I'm pretty okay with. Kiln is not there yet, so we'll get there. We'll get there. Baby steps. All right, so cool. I'm gonna pause right there, guys. Thanks so much. That was, at least for me. I can't speak what's going on in anybody else's head. I really enjoyed this. Thanks very much. It was really cool. I liked it a lot.